So this is my least favorite map.
With a single word, I would describe Die Rise as simply unappetizing.
Die Rise is just not a great map.
Holy Christ, it's such a shit map. Like, it took me 3.5 hours to do this. I feel no pride in this at all.
So, let's talk about Die Rise, the underrated masterpiece of Black Ops 2 Zombies. Die Rise was innovative. Placing the player atop massive skyscrapers in a post-apocalyptic China, it's based heavily around its verticality and has a game flow unlike any other map. It forces the player to navigate between the buildings, relying on their parkour skills to avoid falling to their death. Since its release, no other map has played the same as Die Rise. When you look at top-tier designs such as Origins, its great aspects have been emulated in many other maps, making it feel less distinct, which in turn makes me less likely to go back and replay it, compared to a map like Die Rise, which is an experience you cannot get on any other map. While Origins is my favorite map of all time, I really wish maps after it would have taken more of the Die Rise approach, adding their own gimmick or quirk versus trying to recreate exactly the same thing that worked in older maps. The community has always been divided on Die Rise's reliance on parkour and vertical traversal, but if a player is dying to falling more often than the zombies, that should not be looked at as an issue of the map, but a reflection on the player not wanting to adapt a required way of playing. The newly introduced trample scene also helps push this idea farther. Once you obtain it, which is very easy to do starting on round 1, you can unlock various new travel routes if you know how to use it. This gives experienced players a way to speed up movement and a traversal, and allows for more skill expression inside of the map. This is not to say it was executed perfectly. Things such as the elevator key being a single-use item is an obvious improvement that can be made to the map. However, the complaints about its parkour and punishments for failing a jump are overblown in my opinion. I mean, really think about it. After your first 10 or so games, how often are you really dying to a fall that you simply mis-executed? The most common way I see players failing jumps on Die Rise are when they're being forced into a bad situation by zombies, which is good game design that highlights a player's training mistakes, but then gives them a higher risk way of avoiding a down via the parkour. Since we're talking about fall damage, it's time to discuss the purple elephant in the room. PhD Flopper was teased in the elevator shaft near spawn, but it is never accessible to the player. This one, Troll from Treyarch, is often brought up as a way to talk bad about Die Rise. Now for my likely hottest take in this video, PhD does not belong on this map. As I stated, the main selling point of Die Rise is its vertical movement. Part of this is having to manage the navigation of tight hallways and the broken elevator shaft falls carefully to avoid downs while also training zombies. If the player is given access to a perk that removes this consideration, they no longer have to worry about how taking a riskier but faster escape could have unintended consequences, thus taking away from the main aspect and selling point of the map. It may have been an unpopular choice, but Treyarch made the right decision for the map's progression and mid to late game round play by not adding PhD. Moving past that, you cannot talk about Die Rise without mentioning the Sliquifier. This is one of the best wonder weapons of all time in both functionality and appearance. Unlike the jet gun from its predecessor, or most other Build War wonder weapons really, the player can easily build the Sliquifier without the need of a guide or 20 plus minutes of running around the map collecting parts. Despite its power and cartoonish look, it still has a design and sound that makes it feel like something sewn together from whatever parts the crew could find in the broken buildings, keeping the map's aesthetic together. Hordes of zombies slipping around the floor is a hilarious sight, and this gun is also extremely powerful before round 100, which is perfect for the average player who normally doesn't want to go to high rounds, but just have some fun on solo or hanging out with their friends. This weapon will, however, punish you for misusing it, as the ground will become dangerous to the player near ledges and zombie hordes. This helps balance the crazy power the gun has and increase replayability and skill ceiling of the map. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much, and maybe consider subscribing. It would mean a whole lot to me. Anyway. Die Rise brought us the new perk, Who's Who, and honestly you either love this perk or you hate it, but I think it was a great addition to the map, and let me break down why. Die Rise is deceptively big. Inside of co-op, due to the elevator delay, some revives can be very difficult to impossible to reach on time. Who's Who is a great idea for a perk to help you mitigate that if no one is close enough to help you up. Then, if someone is close enough, all you have to do is simply train around for a little bit while you wait for the revive. One of the big ways you could die on Die Rise as well is failing a jump. Who's Who will keep you playing if you do mess that up and fall off the map, which is a big complaint people have. For the purely solo players out there, this perk is great when used in tandem with Quick Revive. Once dying with it, if you can get the revive off, you get to keep your Quick Revive and have that extra down. But if you aren't able to make your way to your body in time, you're teleported back with all your weapons minus the Quick Revive and Who's Who. Die Rise is actually the first map to let you get infinite Quick Revives without the use of a lucky perk drop from the boss zombies, which you can still get in this map by the way. Since it's very simple to get every perk inside of Die Rise, there's literally no downside to having Who's Who in your perk slots. Die Rise is a really good map for players who may want to enter the high round community. Its first 100 rounds are very simple and can be achieved in 3 to 4 hours using a camping strategy. This is very accessible for someone's first round 100. After that, however, the Liquefier becomes unable to kill zombies fast enough, and you have to start relying on the other new buildable, the Tramplestein, to kill zombies in the late rounds. On screen, you can see footage from the world record Die Rise game. This is one of the most intense and difficult high round strategies in all of COD Zombies, rivaled only really by Buried and Call of the Dead. It requires the player to have mastered BO2 movement and have a deep understanding of the spawns and interactions of the zombies on Die Rise. Compare this to maps like Revelations or even Horizon, where the main strat doesn't change much as the game goes on and, in a way, trivialize rounds like 255 in the high round community. For people who aren't high round players, there's still so many options for playstyle for a casual game. The map has several distinct training spots, such as the Buddha room or the main floor after dropping from the Tramplestein buildable. If you don't feel like training, go to the elevator shaft or on top of the roof for an easy camping strategy. You can play so many games of Die Rise in different ways and be successful. To close, I know this map isn't perfect. It has some issues with its pacing. The lack of backtracking, while I personally enjoy it, is not everyone's cup of tea, so to say. The elevators can create some downtime in solo if you don't have a good Tramplestein ready, but this is one of my favorite maps, and I believe it to be one of, if not the most overhated map in COD Zombies. Opinions on zombie maps have always shifted quickly depending on if the big YouTubers personally enjoyed them. This isn't a shot at those YouTubers because they're free to have whatever opinions they want. But when Moon and Shang first came out, they were pretty widely disliked. But when the big zombie YouTubers started to shift their opinion on them, they quickly started to become more and more liked in the community. So if you vehemently hate Die Rise, or maybe just don't have much of an opinion on it, load up a game with your buddies and give it a fair shake. You might just be surprised with what you see. Thank you so much for watching.